and good morning. Welcome to the Coffee Table Talks. Today we have Nick Espinosa, Chief Security Fanatic, and it's my birthday. I have a birthday cup that my in-laws sent me. Isn't it cool? Look, it has a little wooden. I didn't even get to show you guys yet, because I was just drinking out of it really fast. But yeah, I was super stoked. I don't even know where it comes from, but it's pretty. Thank you for all the birthday wishes. By the way, there are a ton of them in my LinkedIn chat, DMs that I am getting to very slowly. But I see you. I appreciate that you took the time to wish me well. That's very sweet. Somebody actually wished me happy birthday in Gaelic for the first time that's ever happened in my life. Also cool. Thanks. I like stuff like that. It's awesome. We see everybody in the chat. Yay, birthdays. Happy womb evacuation day was another well-wisher sent me. That was fun.
What was it, Carol Burnett, when she asked about describing childbirth? She said, no problem. All you do is you take your finger, your index finger and your thumb on your lip. Now you pull your lip over your forehead.
all the way over.
So the real question I have for you is, are you one of those, well, I'm 21 plus a number?
No, I am absolutely earned every one of my 40 years. Absolutely.
Combat.
Yeah. No, and
year.
Look, I also am on my Pinterest boards, I have pinned to make sure that when the gray starts happening at an accelerated rate, I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to be one of those silver ladies. I have decided. I don't even care.
Well, yeah, if you can't tell for me, I'm not using any kind of dye. It's just going bottom up.
You know what is so unfortunate is that, man, just in general, older men nailing it. Good job, y'all. Fire. Okay. Fire. Women get older. I feel like we got to do extra. I don't know. Y'all just roll out of bed. And you're like, I'm salt and pepper. And I got a good credit score. Thank you. Well,
you hope. That's the hope anyway.
Yeah.
I'm over here like, is that sagging? Oh no. Looking sleepy. No, I've got I've done a little bit of reflection on what I've done so far. I've decided it's a bunch. And I've got some goals set up for this year that I don't do New Year's resolution. I do birthday resolutions.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this past year, my birthday resolution was for spiritual and emotional health. Nailed it. And that was to set up for this year, which is professional acceleration. Yes, sure. I'm going to go get certifications. And I got to meet with the lovely folks at the center. They said, we lovingly just call it the center. I went, okay, I'm doing that too, because it's really long-winded. But it's the Center for Cybersecurity, which is a section or a offshoot of ISC Squared that provides scholarships on a yearly basis for academic scholarships as well as certification scholarships. And we have a chance to partner with them so that we can have I've had vendor partners for years that are like, we'd love to be on your show and talk about our product. And I'm like, absolutely not. Because I try to be very vendor agnostic. But we're going to, on a monthly basis, have one vendor showcase, coffee table talk. And to do that, they will have to have donated to the Coffee Table Talk specific ISC Squared scholarship campaign.
That's great.
I
love that for the record.
Yay, students.
I'm so excited. Do you know how expensive certifications are? It's really outrageous. Ooh, massive. Nick, do you have Nick? Oh, wait, we forgot the introduction. Hi, I'm Rachel Arnold. I'm the Human API with Secure Nation. This is Will. Nope, that's Will. Will McCullen, the program manager for the IT Center for Excellence at Pima Community College in Tucson, Arizona. And this
I'm always impressed with it.
And this is Nick. Once upon a time, Nick interviewed Neil deGrasse Tyson, and today I have 1 degree. Decided. I asked if it was 1 or 2. I was like, I'm confused. But anyway, Nick, do you have certifications?
Maybe, I think. Like 30.
All of them kicking around somewhere.
Yeah, I went through a kick like when I first started out of like I have to get every certification on the planet. Just as a nerd, and then you start realizing like I can let a couple of these go, and so now it's more honed, and it's also balanced with the workload, right? Because certifications take time, effort, energy, and so those that you really want to keep up and keep recertifying, I think is important. I also am a big fan of like new certification bodies because I think it's good for competition. And so, by virtue of that, like, the IoT Security Institute started putting out these smart city and critical infrastructure security professional, of which I think I was the 9th person certified in that.
Wait,
and now
what is this? Hang on, I want to write this one down.
Yeah, the IoT Security Institute.
IoT Security Institute.
Yeah, they came out of Australia. Oh God, I want to say 5-6 years ago. And I happened to get connected with them pretty early on, and I was like, I'm happy to help in some way, shape, or form, and all of that. And by virtue of that, just given my credentials and stuff, they're like, yeah, like, let's hang out. And so I believe I was like the 9th person certified in that by them. And now they're being taught in universities, and they've got partnerships around the world, and it's amazing to watch them grow. But I love that kind of stuff because education, I'm sure as will attest to, is absolutely beyond important in our field. So
definitely
fun stuff. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, I don't think I ever knew what I wanted to be when I grew up for a long time. And now this is it. This is the thing I was looking for. I got here in a squirrely way. All right. There was some dishwashers involved, managed a few restaurants, like did grocery stores for a little while. did in-store grocery store marketing. How did you get into information technology and into information security space?
Well, do you want the 90-second story of my life here?
No, I want we have an hour-long show to fill, Nick.
All right. So basically ages 5 to 12 is what we'll be talking about for the next 53 minutes. So just in a nutshell, I got my very first computer when I was 5 years old. And yes, I'm going that far back. And, my dad brought it home, set it up. He went to work the next day, and I took it apart with a screwdriver, piece by piece, screw by screw. And when he got home and he got done whipping me, I put it back together, and it turned on and it worked. And I didn't know how to use it, but I could disassemble it and reassemble it. And to my father's credit, he said, okay, there's something here. Let's let him go, and so here we are. So I built my first computer when I was 7. He got me all of the parts. And by the time I was 9, I was programming in 12 languages. And when I was 12, I started getting my first certifications from way back in the day. If you remember, this is the Banyan Vines era level of networking, Unix, all that kind of stuff. Then I started just wanting to understand networking. How do computers talk? I was the one at like 6, I think, that set up the printer in the house because my dad couldn't figure it out. So I've always loved this kind of stuff. And so growing up, as a kid, it was computers and then it was soccer, right? Because, when you've got, a parent from South America, there are 2 religions in the house. One of them is soccer, and it's usually the primary one. So, so by virtue of that, that was what it was. And then in high school, it was computers and girls, and then some soccer, and that's essentially how that went. But yeah, so, after 12, I started just figuring out networking and figuring out how I could get into things. If 2 computers can talk to each other, I'm sure I can capture that, break it, understand it, eavesdrop on it, all this kind of stuff. I just started kind of figuring it out. And this is not when we had all of the wonderful certifications and training that we did, so this is very rudimentary. So I got into my first major system at age 14 that I wasn't supposed to get into. And that kind of just set me off on that path.
Wait, what happened? How'd you get caught? You weren't supposed to. So obviously you got caught. Did you get caught?
Yeah. Well, I basically was able to get into a database with a whole bunch of what we call PII now. And so by virtue of that, they were, it was back in the day. So using the parents' phone, and so by virtue of that, it was and back then it was boys will be boys, right? Or, whatever the old saying was. And so that kind of put it on the map for me. And so I just kept going. I got my first job at 16 in the computer field. I originally was kind of doing like data entry for international shipper. And then they found out that I actually knew IT stuff. So here's cheap IT help. So they moved me to the IT department,
They were like, oh, great, child labor.
Right. Yeah. And so then from there, I got my first full-time job, and I actually was a junior in high school when I got that, and I went to a small school, so they were very cool at letting me go at noon, like scheduling all my classes, letting me go at noon, and I would work, and I ended up being head of tech support after about like 6 months to a year or so, and then I founded my first company out of high school at 19, and then I grew that for almost 15 years before selling that to another company, and then I was there for about 10 years as a partner, but 2 years into that, I founded Security Fanatics in 2015. So, and I've been doing that ever since. And so I like to say it's in my DNA. It's not in my blood. It's in my DNA. And I guess DNA too.
I had a school to work program too, but I went to go work at a kitchen in a assisted living facility. Nick was like, nah, I'm going to work on starting my own company and how I can get there faster.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not Bill Gates, right? I'm not doing this for my private island, but I've had I like to say I've had a good chunk of success. And if I listened to my father even more and taken business classes when I went to college, I probably might be doing this from a private island, but but here we are. And so I've had fun with it, and I've enjoyed it, and it's fun because I'm technically on my third iteration of corporations that I've owned. So it's pretty cool.
Will, you got questions? I'm going flabbergasted over here. All
right. I think that's fantastic. And you hit upon some of the key elements there, right? Your father took the approach, let's feed that.
Yeah.
Let's take that creativity, that passion, that curiosity, and run with it.
Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah, I could have been grounded from the computer for life, and I don't know, I might be digging ditches right now, but the point is that to that point is when you see something, you should encourage it. I think it's an important lesson for life in general. And if I've got others around me that are really passionate about something or really have an intuition about it, let them go for it. I mean, that's the way of the world, or at least it should be.
Yeah, we're finding that in the cyber range here at Pima. Mm-hmm. Where we have students that are in middle school, right? So you imagine this, you've got a boot camp, right? And you bring in students in middle school, you're going through a project and they turn to you and they say, can we use Burp Suite?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
And then they get into the part where they can get into admin, they're creating user accounts and they're trying to inject JavaScript in between the first and last names.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's where a whole bunch of folks are, and we can't let them be raised by the internet.
Right. I mean, I think it's such an important lesson in the sense that it needs to be fostered. Like, oh my God, like when I was that age, I would have killed to have something like that, and there was a lot of head scratching. I mean, my first operating system was BASIC, followed by DOS, and now it's like you can buy literally like build it your own computer kits for the kids. And the point is, let them fail. Let them blow it up, trial and error, have fun with it.
Very important.
In that real practical experience. And I think a lot of professionals or veterans in the cybersecurity community, one of the biggest issues that we've got is when a lot of these students are coming out of college, they can answer, questions on a test, great, but there's no practical knowledge. And that goes for anything, right? Like you've got a brand new electrician, that just got out of, apprenticeship on the job and sees something unusual, it's the 20-year-old electrician's like, I've seen it a million times. Here's how you do it. Right. But you've got to learn that. You've got to figure out those unique things. And it should be inherent to the nature of who we are as humans. We're naturally curious. Yeah. I mean, if you think about hacking in general, it's simply ways to get around systems. I mean, for God's sakes, you can go to lifehacker.com and hack your closet, hack your garden so it can grow better. And Lord knows I suck at that, but there's so much stuff you can do with that. And so to that point, if you're giving them a space to basically like blow shit up, by all means, let them do it. I think that's fantastic. It really is.
Rachel, I love this guy, right?
I know.
he just hit the paramount basic of what needs to happen in higher ed across this nation, right?
Well,
We have to.
Will, I live to delight you. You know that? You have the most infectious, greatest sense of joy. And when you feel joy, it spreads. And it gives me joy to bring you joy. Thus, Will,
Yeah, but that has got to change across this nation in that IT can't be just theory, right? You need the practice.
Well, when you need both. I mean, you honestly need both in the same way physics needs practical and theoretical, right? I mean, you have to apply it, but the theory is what moves the ball forward, and it's figuring out, okay, the next 5 years looks like this. Now go do it, and so I think there is merit for both, but I think it needs to be understood in the same way that like so many companies, it pulls my hair out when I'm consulting with them, where like they look at IT and cybersecurity as the same thing. And it's really not. We train differently. I do not go to my podiatrist for brain surgery. I do not go to my neurosurgeon for footwork, and I like to walk and think, right? So understanding that there are several disciplines is so important. And when I'm talking to students, I have a picture of like the 50 different things you can do in all the different domains in cybersecurity, and say, find something you're passionate about. And I promise you, there's an organization out there that needs you, or start the organization yourself. Like have at it. You really should have at it.
Oh, hey, this is one of my mentees. Hi, Jacob. So how do we make the transition for college students to cyber professionals more seamless?
We give them a program where they can actually get experience.
Yes.
Yes. Great question, though, Jacob.
Yeah, practical experience, I think, is the most important thing, and the other side of it too is the organizations that offer internships in cybersecurity. For the love of God, your interns are not just there to get your dry cleaning, like actually put them to work in stuff. And I see that all the time. Oh, how was your internship? I was getting coffee every morning, I got the boss's car washed once a week. And it's like, what good does that do when we are literally the shield for the economy? Right? The engine of the economy is technology. I don't care what organization you are, what you do, you literally could be in construction, finance, health, whatever you are. Technology is your engine. Without technology, you can't communicate, you can't collaborate, you can't bill, you can't receive. Like this is a huge thing. And cybersecurity is the shield for the engine of the economy. We are the early warning sensors when you're about to hit the tree, we're the airbags, the safety belt, all this stuff. And if you basically are graduating professionals that don't have practical experience, there's a huge deficit, not to mention the fact that the veterans now are starting to burn out. I wrote an article for Forbes like a year and a half ago or so on this, where I think it was like Mimecast or one of the other outfits did a study, and like something like over half of like my colleagues are basically like, yeah, I want to go like sit on a beach or run a puppy daycare, because I'm not getting the budget, that I need. I can't get good staffing, and that experience gap, if everybody does leave, is going to be legion. So it's, and it's not like the hackers are taking a day off, right? I mean, they're more prolific than ever now. So it's a big issue. Really is.
It really is. You know what? Jacob clarifies a little bit on his question, and he brings up a good point, right? That the educational system cannot be fixed tomorrow, but how do we as an industry of professionals drive that change post-college? I have a few ideas. One, and this is what Joshua did right out of college, right? So everybody knows my husband Joshua also works in the cybersecurity space as a principal security analyst. He started his own company with a friend that he graduated with. They just got a little LLC, which was pretty cheap, out of the state of Louisiana to sign up for. It was like $70 or something at the time. I think now it's $100. Printed off some business cards, dropped them around a bunch of local businesses, and offered IT services pro bono for a little while until people started to pay. But they utilized that experience, and whenever they went to a formal or, with a not their own company, right, an established company interview, a job interview, they brought that experience up and talked about it on their resumes and what they learned from it. And they started doing this thing because at the time, this was like, I don't know, 13 years ago or something, there definitely was not a lot of college programs out there beyond just a bachelor's in computer science, right? Like there wasn't a lot of anything, especially in Louisiana area. There wasn't a lot. We would have had to go on somewhere else. Do you guys have any other thoughts or ideas that may be more relevant?
Yeah, well, to Jacob's point, and I actually liked Nico's, I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that right, statement that was briefly on my screen. Anyway, I think to Jacob's point, part of this is I think the veterans need to go back to school, basically be mentors, be involved in this in a way that we normally aren't. And most people, okay, yeah, you donate as an alum to your college or whatever, but go back and engage. So I do a ton of speaking, like around the world. I fly like 50, 60 times a year for just various gigs or on-site work as well. And by virtue of that, I tend to, if I'm in like an area where let's say I have a relationship with the university, I go and lecture there. I got approached last year at a conference, and somebody said, hey, I run the cybersecurity department of Cal Poly Pomona. Would you come out and speak at our cybersecurity day? And I said, absolutely. I'm happy to do that. And so I think that's a really important thing that I think oftentimes is missing. We're not nearly as active as we should be, in the education. And I think that goes for most fields, though, for the record as well. Like once you're gone and you're in the workforce, you're focused on your career, your retirement, your whatever. But I think it's important we all take some time and step back and help train through practical experience, something that the students wouldn't see elsewhere, otherwise elsewhere, that kind of thing.
Right.
Absolutely. Higher education in general, right? If you look at, say, the medical community, folks go through, they study, they do their elements, but then they have a practical that they have to take part in. They're working in a hospital, they're working with doctors, that kind of deal. If we could get a better relationship with higher ed and local business, the industry, with workforce, I think that could be a huge boon, because just as Jen Easterly has been talking about, we're expecting from adversaries and things like that it could get really ugly in the near future.
Yeah.
And as such, we need to really start developing folks and kind of pull together.
Yeah. And to that point, I think it's also important to understand that longitudinally, cybersecurity in terms of workforce has always been behind. And the reason being is, if you think about it, in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the tech bubble, initially blew up and then eventually burst, and then social media came onto the stage, what were we telling everybody? What were we telling the kids? Like, oh, go to school and, become a programmer, invent the app that delivers dog food 10% faster and change the world, and by virtue of that, we have a legion of programmers, and we're over here sitting like, we got to defend this. The coding has to be secure. Maybe we should put a firewall in front of this thing, and so by virtue of that, I look at my career. I started my first company in cybersecurity in 1998, to date myself. And by virtue of that, I was the redheaded stepchild in the room for almost like 15 years, because nobody wanted to buy the extra stuff. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and so why would you send your kid into college to look at cybersecurity? And now when everybody's hacking everybody, now suddenly we're the belle of the ball. Right. And so I think that's something that we have to address, and we have to recognize, not as a I told you so every other technological field, but hey, we need help. And I think that's an important one. And fortunately, I think we're starting to catch up to that, because quite frankly, there's been a massive hiring boom in cybersecurity, and obviously we all have shortage issues with this because the threats keep coming. That's why there's burnout. But I think overarchingly, we're starting to right that boat, but we're coming behind. I mean, for every cybersecurity professional you can find, you can probably hit 1,000 programmers, and that's an issue.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, it's a challenge, and we have to, what do you think is a good solution? Because you're in a situation where you're sounding the gong all the time, right? And that's what I love about your program, folks. For those that are new to Nick, check out his YouTube, check out his Spotify. He's got incredible shows where he's constantly sounding the gong, saying, hey, folks, wake up. You need to think about this. Okay, side note, rabbit trail. I think one of my favorites was right after the whole TikTok element in front of Congress, and you hit that and you said, "These are the questions they should have been asking."
Oh, God.
That was one of my favorite ones.
I was pissed. I was pissed.
Were you also screaming at your screen?
Oh my
I was
God.
screaming.
So the two that I can think of with that, the other one was Cambridge Analytica and Mark Zuckerberg when he went in front of Congress. And the very first thing I tweeted out was, if every member of Congress had just sent their grandkids to question him, he would have been screwed.
Yep.
Like, how do you spend 5 minutes asking him how he makes his money, for God's sakes? Like this bothers me to no end. And part of it too is that, like, we just don't have, I think, especially higher up in the government, good consultants for cybersecurity. And I've consulted with like members of Congress, but they get their 5 minutes to get the sound bites they want, yelling at the TikTok executive, and then it's same as it ever was, and I mean, we'll see what happens there. But yes, I just, it bothers me. And to your point, I try to keep up with this stuff. I try to find interesting things to talk about, and I don't know if it's interesting to anybody else. And I'm glad that more than just my mother watches these things, but like, it's, it's something that I'm pretty curious about.
Yeah, it's tremendous work and needs to be happening. But how can we do that more effectively? Because the real danger that has come up is that there's breaches all the time happening regularly, right? So now it's like, oh, somebody got hacked. But yet we need to form this into, just like with compliance, has to become part of the culture. Any thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, well,
You might have a few.
Well, I think part of it is we have a bit of fatigue out there. And one of the problems with having something like, let's say, a cyber awareness training, platform, all that kind of stuff, is people are like, all my stuff's out there anyway. I mean, what did we hear 24 hours ago? Like, every social security number in the United States, once again, thank you, Equifax, is out there. And it's like, okay, like, why should I even bother? You know what I mean? I'll just email my passwords to passwords.russia.ru and let them have them right now. And so I think it's really going to be a hearts and minds thing. I mean, what makes it pervasive in the society, especially a society like the United States, or any country similar to the United States, I think, is honestly putting it into popular culture as best we can. And one of the issues we have there is that there are terrible perceptions about that. We all watch Swordfish and he hacks the Pentagon in 60 seconds or whatever. It's like, that's not how that works. And I ask that question to audiences, like, how long do you think, on average, per FBI statistic, does it take me to break into your network and steal one single file if you're moderately defended? 30 seconds, a minute, 10 minutes. And I look at the 10-minute guy, I'm like, really? I'm that slow? Like, really? When it's like hundreds of days, on average, and so I think, if I'm answering your question right, like, I think the issue that we've got is it has to be front and center. But right now, the news in our industry is, we're all getting hit, our data is getting dumped, and it looks doom and gloom every week. And I'm not saying we have to avoid the news, but what I'm saying is we have to help craft the narrative to essentially what's going on here, because it didn't necessarily have to be, and the other side of it is, I mean, and this is literally the last article I wrote for Forbes, is compliance standards. My God, like I can't tell you how many clients I've walked into when they're new and they're like, oh yeah, we have ITAR. I'm like, you have it on your website that you do it, but you got nothing for it, and so how much lip service is paid? And the other side of it is, on the compliance side, is, they're checking boxes. On paper, firewall A looks like firewall B, but they're vastly different, yes. But hey, it checks the box, and I've saved money, and here we are. So I mean, I think it's a multifaceted issue. We're not going to get around that, and I think that's one of the things that we're just going to have to deal with and combat with. But really, it is a hearts and minds. And I think it's putting more positive spins on cybersecurity, because as doom and gloom as it is, we're the good guys. We're here to help, and we've all been in situations where, it's a potentially life-ending event for an organization. And it's heartbreaking to see. I had one that they literally brought grandpa out of mothballs to basically shut the company down. We can't pay the ransom. We don't have insurance. I have to sit there and tell them I can't decrypt this stuff, and that was it. They sold for parts. And so those are, I think, are the stories that we need to have out there, that we are tirelessly trying to defend the world. We really are.
And that, so not to be too doom and gloom, but with the way things have been heating up, we've got China getting really active and the potential to be really ugly, right?
Yeah.
Because if you want to take down an economy, just like you said, hit all those mom and pops and start closing them, that has an effect on the economy. And once Ukraine resolves or whatever, you can almost guarantee that all those Russian hackers that are just strictly focusing on Ukraine, it'll probably be ugly, right?
Yeah.
Just common sense.
Well, we've learned a lot. So full disclosure, and it's actually public knowledge. My outfit's actually been involved in Ukraine since day one. And we've actually had access to the Ukrainian government at such a deep level that you can see it on my YouTube channel, but on my nationally syndicated radio show, I started interviewing members of their parliament. So it is a horrific and terrifying situation, and it was heartbreaking from day one. Just setting up the interviews would sometimes take a week or two because, we're on their time, right? Like whenever you can make it, you're the one getting bombed right now.
Right.
And we wouldn't hear from somebody and then we'd get reports that there was heavy bombing in the area. We seriously thought that some of the people we were talking to had been killed. Yeah. And then like 2 days later, they pop up and they're like, oh, we're so sorry. I'm like, don't apologize. For the love of God, don't apologize.
We're just happy you said hey.
Right. So it was horrific. But one of the things that was interesting through there was, aside from the fact that we were seeing the evolution of different types of malware that the Russians were using, like Mirai and some others, was interestingly enough the sense of global community and urgency that the world had to come together. And so, for example, one of the biggest issues that, especially at the initial start of the war, was that, okay, the Ukrainian cyber army is trying to organize with a whole bunch of different cutouts to say, okay, we're going to hit this specific target and you guys do this to distract them. Well, we'll do this and do this and do this. And then some 15-year-old kid with a laptop not connected to any of us goes, Leroy Jenkins, and then just runs right in and tries to hack the target. And so now they're locking down. Now they're on alert, because some random kid with a laptop just thinks he wants to help, and so it was fascinating to see. It was interesting to see, and I actually had a client that does physical security as well. They were actually in the theater of conflict, pulling out executives, from various organizations that they help as well. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of this. But to your point, we have a rising problem on the technological front, and it's in part the malware, it's in part the hacking. The other side of it is the free and open systems that we've given the world. So anybody can sign up for Facebook or Twitter or whatever they're going to X or whatever they're going to call it next week. And these are the things that we've got issues with because anybody can leverage them. And so we see disinformation campaigns, we see information warfare, and it's not unique to the United States. We're the largest target by far, but we saw it in Hong Kong. We saw it in Taiwan. We've seen it across the Middle East, depending on if you're Shia or Sunni. Finland got hit, all of Western Europe, all over the place. And so these are things I think that we have to understand, that as we are having free and open internet, free and open traffic, borderless communication instantly around the world, that these are things that we also have to be aware of. And I think that takes education.
Absolutely. And Lord help us that education doesn't come the hard way. Or
but it does, though. I mean, and that's the biggest issue. I mean, the number one call that we get as an organization is help. Oh my God, we've never worked with you, but the world is burning down. We don't know what to do. Please help. Usually they're the ones that don't have the incident response plan. So it's an absolute nightmare. But we shepherd them through that. And then one of our recommendations is, okay, you need awareness training. Go get awareness training. And they're like, well, why? Like, we're all vigilant now. We'll never let this happen again. I'm like, in 6 months, this will be forgotten. You're watching the latest show, you're watching whatever it is, you're not thinking about this, and it's going to happen again. This is
that employee turnover too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
not everybody as the business owner, but your employees, right. I promise you, have other things to do. And it's such a, it really is a hearts and minds thing, and it's an education thing, but it's also human nature.
By the way, shameless plug, just real quick, if you need security awareness training, feel free to come talk to me.
There you go. There you go. So shameless plug indeed, but no, all good, all good. But that's the point, right? I mean, is it is really a hearts and minds issue in the same way that, you know, one of the core fundamentals of being a human being is the ability to trust. You know, and I've written extensively on that. I mean, I have 1.5 TED Talks on trust in cybersecurity. I think it's our biggest issue. So,
oh yeah, by the way, Nick has also done like a handful of TED Talks, so you can check those out. They're really fun.
Soon to be five, but I've done 4 right now. So
yes, 4. There was okay, so wait. I've had one of our guests. Do you remember May, right? May Brooks?
Mm-hmm. Of
Okay.
course.
May had done a TED Talk, not 4, soon to be 5. Wait, soon to be 5? Mm-hmm. When I was asking you earlier if you had anything upcoming that you were going to be doing.
Oh, so it odds are it'll be next year. I don't have a booking for that just yet, but it's already been accepted. I just have to figure out the venue. Yeah, it'll be sneak peek. It'll be on disinformation.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of an important one in our world. So
it is. Mm-hmm. I saw a meme floating around about that one today. Actually, I think my husband shared it on his Facebook. It was pretty funny. I'll have to share it with you guys later. Anyway, TED Talks. Mm-hmm. How you go? What's the process like to become a TED speaker?
Yeah, so I mean, I encourage everybody to get it. I mean, it's free and open education. Yeah. I've had my most viral one get ripped off multiple times. I've seen other people just literally just take it and use it, and more power to you if you're educating others. So essentially, one, you apply, to say, hey, I have a concept for this, and ideally you've got it fleshed out ahead of time. So the first one that I did was out of Northbrook, and I applied for it, and I came up with a concept called Trust Sucks, and that was the title of my first one. That was the title of my first talk. And essentially they go in, you do an interview, they vet you, because I can't be like Nick the bus driver, but a fan of cybersecurity. They kind of want professionals to be doing these things, and anyway, so they go through, and you actually will give them the talk, or at least the version of the talk you have, because obviously you've got time you have to memorize these things. Usually you can use cards, but I memorize. It's believe me, it's a pain. And then they basically accept you or they don't, right? And so when I got accepted to that one, there were only 4 speakers they accepted on 4 different topics. And so I asked them, I'm like, why did you take me? As opposed to somebody else? And they said, well, we did have somebody else that was interested in doing a cybersecurity TED Talk, but yours was more TED Talky, and so his was more presentation-y. And to that point, when I first started putting together this concept, I started doing a presentation like I give to a regular audience, and I had to stop myself and say, this is like something I'd give to an accounting firm. This is not as conceptual as it needs to be. Right. And so once you do one, it's easier, because now the next time you apply, they know, 1, you're a professional. 2, you're not going to throw up on stage because you got through one, and you can show them that, and that's a big thing, right? Because people, my second one, they had 15, 16 people, it was like an all-day event, speaker after speaker. It was really cool. And there was one guy that was literally up there with no cards, just like shaking, and I felt so bad for him, but I mean, he got through it though,
I know this is going to blow your mind, but once upon a time I was painfully introverted. Yeah. And I didn't realize that I had a speaking an issue with speaking until I think it was my freshman year of college, and I'd signed up for a speech class, my first one. Mm-hmm. And we were just like, the first assignment was just get up in front of the class and talk about yourself in a presentation style, right? Like just very rudimentary introduction. And I didn't think there's going to be any problem, because I'd never had a problem. But for some reason, standing up in front of a captivated room full of faces, mm-hmm. I had serious, like, visceral reactions. I busted out into hives and walked out into the hallway and threw up. So kudos. Good job.
Well, hey, you spared the audience the pain of that one. No, but it's I mean, I didn't start out like, so the largest crowd I've spoken to is probably like 3,000-4,000 people. when I'm on stage, and it doesn't phase me at all. You know what I mean? Like I have
just
no issues
offhand.
like
Just
talking to you
offhand.
live here in front of an audience. It doesn't bother me. But I remember like the very first time I gave a presentation, it was to like 20 people, in like this like small little room. I got there like 3 hours ahead of time. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, oh my God, like I was going through everything. And so everybody starts somewhere, right? And it's
Yeah.
honed, and so I got into speaking and I started really enjoying it. And that's when I said, you know what, I've always, I thought TED Talks were cool. I want to do one of those. And then after that, I thought, you know what, I always wanted to have a radio show. And so I cut a demo and I started going around to radio stations. And, I found one that was willing to take me on. And I swear to God, more cows than humans were listening to that show, but it gave me the ability to get kind of comfortable on the mic. And then I took recordings of that. I went to a syndicator and said, I'd like to be on more stations. And I found a syndicator, and, now they're pumping me out, and so by virtue of that, it's one step forward. Like I wouldn't, have a nationally syndicated radio show on day one. Oh my God, I'd be throwing up all over the mic. Like I have no idea. There's no dead air, and so by virtue of that, you learn very fast. And and those are the kinds of things. You don't run, right out of the gate. You walk, you crawl, you walk, you run. So it is what it is.
Right. And you trip and you fall down and you get up again.
Yeah, you do. I had the worst presentation I've ever given was like 4 months ago in Southern California. And I just had woken up that day. And I'd actually I was taking a medication at the time, and I'd actually switched out that medication, and I took it about an hour before I was get on stage. And 20 minutes later, I was seeing stars. I was spinning. The room was spinning on me, and I dragged myself from the hotel room to the podium, and I gripped that thing for an hour and just gave the presentation, barely opening my eyes. And I got through it, but it's so you all have a bad day, and the next one was great. It is what it is. Lesson learned, but you have to have a passion for whatever it is you're doing. It doesn't have to be speaking, whatever it is, just get into it, learn, grow, adapt.
And fail and try, right?
Yeah.
That's
one of my favorite movies ever for that is a animated one from like 10 plus years ago called Meet the Robinsons. And the whole point of it was, yay, you failed, all that. So it's good. Failing up. That's the goal.
Yeah, I feel like live streams and podcasts though, because when I still get up in front of other people, right, and do a presentation. And okay, so I don't bust out into hives and throw up. All right, I've got control of that part. But I've in just a small tip, it worked for me. Not sure if it'll work for anybody else who might be out there suffering with any sort of stage fright or some nervous energy from that. I love to go and meet the people that I'm about to be presenting to. That helps out so much. And then I have these people in the audience that I am focused on. Like I already know their face, and I'm talking to them, and I tend to put blinders on about anybody else in the audience when I do this.
Yeah, no, that helps. Like if there's a reception the day before, right, I usually show up. And it depends on the size of the audience, like sometimes, it's a sea of faces and you don't see those people, but again, whatever makes you comfortable. I never thought the whole picture them in their underwear or picture them naked kind of thing that never worked for me. Maybe I'm just not that it doesn't work, but hey, whatever works, use it.
I feel like I violate way too many people if I try to do that.
Well, I don't think anybody would want to see me naked, so I'm giving them the courtesy of not thinking about them naked. So
right? It's a mutual respect thing. Please don't imagine
it really is. It really is. Right on.
Well, even without a reception though, as they're filling into wherever we're having this presentation, I'll just take a moment, even if I'm on a stage, and just kind of hop down or sit on the edge of the stage waiting for everybody to kind of settle in and just talk to a few people in the front row at least. And that helps me a lot. I feel like podcasts and live streams are an easy cheat. Okay. I have never felt the same level of anxiety doing a live stream as I do speaking in person.
So the pandemic was a tough one for me in the sense that for almost a year and a half, and mind you, I'm going from almost living out of a suitcase, the amount I travel, to basically nothing for like a year and change, right? Nobody wants to see you in the middle of a pandemic, right? And so all of my stuff that still was on, like all of my events, were switched to virtual. And you try being absolutely alone with your slide deck and engaging like an audience like you would on stage, because you've got to picture that. And I'm sitting there engaged, like I'm, and it you really start to hone that skill too. Right. But I am so glad the pandemic is over, because I love traveling and I love meeting and interacting with people, but to that point, yeah, I mean, it's, if I didn't see like a side scrolling thing, I'm not really like looking at, because I know somebody else is with questions and stuff, it would just feel like we were talking. And I think that is a bit of a cheat, but it's a good one.
It is.
Sense that it gives us the ability to deliver information without anybody getting sick live. So not bad.
That's one of the difficulties of teaching virtually, right? Because when you teach virtually, you're teaching to a whole bunch of icons on the screen.
Yeah.
And that's it. And so you hope to be able to pull out that engaging conversation, which is very different than teaching in front of a group. Because when you're teaching in front of a group, you can see people going, or
right,
and then you can pick up on those cues and run with it. But when all you have are icons, it's hard.
Yeah. Like at the last presentation I did, there was a woman in the front row that was laughing at some of my jokes. So naturally I pick up on that, that energizes you, right. And so I start interacting with her, because, doing crowd work and engaging with the audience is part of it, and it's always a fun time. But yeah, it's just a different animal, but I enjoy it.
So that people aspect is important. Relationship is important. Being able to connect with your audience, and in having any idea of where you want to go with your messaging, whether that's cybersecurity, whether that's bringing awareness, whether that is hanging out in a group, be it a makerspace, a meetup, anything along those lines. It really helps to get out of the hole and into working with other people and getting ideas from other people.
Yeah. And what was just flashed up on the screen by Rob, if I remember the name right, was, interestingly enough, Rob, just to your point, is nobody necessarily, well, I get questions when I'm on stage, and I'm on stage a lot. And I do get them from the audience, but usually when I get the most questions is after it's over, because people want to address me more one-on-one, or they don't want other people to hear what their question is. And so usually I'll stay for, like, if it's like a 10 a.m. event or whatever, I'll stay usually till the end of the day, because I'll have people come up to me throughout the day asking me their questions, whatever they want. So I get a ton of questions, but oftentimes, maybe 10% of them are coming from the live audience when I'm actually engaging. So it's an interesting dynamic that you're picking up on.
So you're going out all over the place, spreading these messages. What's your current passionate message that you're trying to get across?
So I have literally like 60 plus presentations at this point, because I get like, oh, we want you to talk about this very specific thing. I'll make a presentation for it. Now I've got it,
So what do you want to get across?
So, right. Fair enough. So one of the presentations I've been doing a lot of is, I think, an understanding of what we are missing in cybersecurity as CISOs. And I actually was a keynote speaker at OptiveCon Dallas earlier this year, and I'll be the keynote at OptiveCon Kansas City, like in a couple of weeks or so, a few weeks. But the one that I gave in Dallas, I think, is one of the ones that I think is what we are missing. And it is the understanding that we have to talk about the future of business. And so understanding, we have a growing population. We're now over 8 billion. By virtue of that, we have technological necessity to feed, clothe, and shelter, 8 billion humans. I mean, we haven't done that yet, not to mention we have changing attitudes and outlooks and demographics. When 45% of everybody under 25 wants to be an influencer, that's a huge problem, because they're going to sit on their couch with the phone. That's not wealth generation, except for one person. That's technology. That's wealth transfer. So if you think about it, if I'm sitting there on my phone, doing OnlyFans, and I noticed you didn't put my OnlyFans link up. I don't know why. $19.99 a month. All Nick all the time. What do you want? So like when you've got that, you essentially, what you're doing is you're taking from the economy. As people are sending me money for whatever I'm doing on OnlyFans or YouTube or whatever,
I'm sorry, I still just laughed.
don't put that picture in your head, Rachel. We talked about this. Give me the courtesy.
Damn it, Nick.
But hey, I'm just saying.
I'm so embarrassed. Is it coming through how red I'm turning?
But my point here is that if you look at how we've traditionally consumed media, like a television show, you have to hire actors, you have to hire carpenters, you have to hire caterers, you have to hire lawyers and marketing and all of the insurance and all of these different things. And then you've got to get advertisers to generate, a lot of this. And so outside of like the most largest and expensive productions that you see on YouTube, like Mr. Beast, for example, most that are generating all of this stuff and getting wealth transfer, and it's not doing anybody good. Not to mention conventional things like just getting kids off the couch to swing a hammer for construction. Like these are things that we have to understand longitudinally, because it fundamentally changes the landscape for hiring. It fundamentally changes the landscape for concepts of privacy. We didn't grow up in a sharing community. Like, at our age, we have people that probably use Facebook as a personal therapy group, not realizing the implications of the privacy of that, but putting out like the most intimate things. But our generation, like Gen X really, or late millennials, doesn't really do that. But the younger generation, they score social points by doing that. And so now that's a huge issue when the 22-year-old marketing person tweets out the designs to the military base, because, look at the great things our construction company is doing. And we actually had that case. That's that's classified information, or controlled classified information.
Don't do that.
Right. But the point is that at that moment, she didn't know that was wrong, because she's in an ecosystem where sharing is the name of the game, which in many ways is great, builds empathy, but in many ways it's not, especially when you have privacy, like health information, so it's this balance. And so I've been doing a lot of talking on that. The other one I've been talking on, and I actually, about a month and a half ago, I actually was in Venice, Italy, speaking to the heads of the data protection authorities across Europe on essentially the privacy issues that we're facing, the compliance issues that we're facing, because I'm also the president of the Foundation for a Human Internet. We're essentially in the trenches trying to make essentially like the Twitters of the world bot free and private. And these are the ones that really need to hear this message, because the regulators and the compliance people, they're in their head on building frameworks, but practically we're the ones executing. And so that is another big push that I've had, and I've been in front of them twice this year, just basically yelling at them. What am I going to do? But it is what it is. So, but those have been things I've been talking about. Not to mention the trust has always been an ongoing theme in my life. Especially in cybersecurity and in understanding building trust. And we need trust. Like we see what happens when trust breaks down in society. We're going through a contentious election. I don't care what you believe politically. We're in a divided time, and trust is at an all-time low. That's detrimental. We need trust in our lives. We should be able to trust our spouses or our kids to some extent, because, well, they lie, but in the technological world, we have to build a filter of distrust. Does Prince Ubuntu really need help with his revolution? Probably not. Is that really your long lost friend that got stranded in Europe and needs $3,000 for a plane ticket? Probably not. And these are things that we need to understand, and these are the things that I really try to drive home. And so those have been continuous messages that I've had for like the last, trust always, but the last year or so I've really been focusing on those two, and anything else anybody wants me to talk about. You want me to talk about underwater basket weaving and cybersecurity? I'll figure it out.
Oh man,
fantastic! All very important elements coming up, and I love the view of, to really have a successful economy, it has to be actually producing something, right? Instead of just transferring something.
Yeah.
Meg just said, I think you might be getting a package. Pups might start barking. So if I suddenly mute, my bad. I'm like, what? So for anybody that doesn't know, Meg is Meg Jet with 2 T's, Jet Tata, is our very awesome coffee table talks moderator. She's the one chatting with you all from the host thing and pops up the stuff. She only lives like 2 doors down from me. I know we were just talking about privacy, but I'm just, I'm going to overshare. She lives 2 doors down from me, and I'm like,
and what's her address so we never Google it or look it up?
I'm pretty. I don't know if I want to out her that much. Jeez, calm down.
Well, you gave me your full name, so
Jessica.
There you go.
That's because every morning and here's some more oversharing for you. Every morning we hang out on Meg's front porch and drink coffee together. Me, her, and her husband, and watch our kids.
Oh,
they're loud.
Yes. So what she was going to say is watch your kids do interpretive dance on the front lawn until the bus shows up for school. I'm pretty sure that's what she was going to say. So there you go.
Here's so many mornings shine like as a girl. Oh,
happy birthday to the hostess with the mostest.
Oh,
we love Rachel so much.
Oh my gosh, I love you. Thank you.
That's Meg for the record, everybody. Just if you didn't know.
I got presents.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday,
Dear
dear Rachel.
Rachel. Happy birthday to you.
This is going to horribly sync on streaming. I'm just saying.
It is going to be bad, but there we go. Look at that. Oh, wow. Meg, this is awesome. Thank you.
I wanted to get you an actual cupcake, but I can't get you an actual cupcake. So I got you a Squishmallow cupcake.
I love Squishmallows. Do you guys have Squishmallows? I'm such a giant child right now. You have no idea.
I can honestly say I do not own one of those. I didn't even know they existed until right now. So
what? Oh no, we have to correct that. That is
if I can't buy it in an airport, I probably don't see it.
Oh. That's it. We gotta send Nick a Squishmallow.
Yes.
So he understands.
We'll find a coffee cup.
Oh, I love you, friend. Thank you. This is so sweet.
Okay, I love you.
Love you.
So the other thing to recognize here, Nick, is that out of all the guests for her birthday, you were the birthday guest. You were the one that she wanted on the birthday.
I'm honored. That's very cool. That's very cool.
It never worked. Out of all of the coffee table talks, there's never been one on my actual birthday. So here we are.
There you go.
Now you all know my birthday and year. Isn't that great? On a cybersecurity show to just
odds are
all that out there.
Right. Well, congratulations and happy birthday. I think that's awesome.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
We're going to be hanging out with the family tonight. And then tomorrow, my husband has gathered up some friends and we're having a 90s high school sleepover themed birthday party.
Nice.
Isn't that great? He got some PJs. He looks like Saved by the Bell personified. Like it's all the Zach Morris vibes.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Play some Smashing Pumpkins.
Probably so. Yeah.
So whose house is getting TP'd?
Good question.
Well, it was going to be Meg's, but then she was incredibly nice. But no, I'm just kidding. It was not going to be Meg's. We would never do that to Meg. That was awesome. I don't know what to do now. What do I do with my hands? Nick, thank you for coming and hanging out with me on my birthday.
Yeah, happy to be here. And pretty cool day.
Yeah, it's a cool day. This is one of my favorite sessions we've done. And I think so. It is.
I just want to say thank you for what you do, dude. I mean, you are out there sounding the gong heavily. You're a favorite among the students, and trying to get the word out, trying to make a difference. Folks that are doing that with their heart and with their passion is always huge props in my book. So I just gotta thank you for all that work you're doing. That's tremendous.
Well, thank you. I genuinely appreciate that. I mean, I think it's a shared responsibility. I think everybody, that is in our field has a piece of this or should own a piece of this anyway, and just educating everybody, I've been using the term herd immunity for years, well before the pandemic. And that's the only silver lining I had since the pandemic, because I no longer have to explain what the hell that is. But if you think about it, like a virus, like a COVID, whatever it is, if everybody has education, the few that don't are much more protected. So educating, our husbands, wives, kids, aunts, uncles, bosses, employees, whatever it is. I think it's so unbelievably important to get the word out on this, because the more we're aware, the more we're protected. We really are in this together, especially just given the level of interconnectedness we have. So thank you for that. But thank you for what you're doing, because things like the cyber warfare range are so unbelievably important for essentially generating the next generation of, those that, will take over when I do go sit on a beach, at some point. I can't imagine myself retiring, I really love what I do, but at some point I will. And I'm glad to know that, Will, you're out there with the next generation. And so if I can be of help, by all means, like we were talking before this, please just let me know.
Oh, thanks. Open invitation, dude. And were you in the early days of the cyber range actually there in part of?
No, I'm very familiar with it, in the sense of like I can't remember the name, but like I'm aware of that one. There's one in Oklahoma as well, like a training center in Oklahoma, and there's one other that I've read up on. Like I'm not involved in it. It's not like I've been donating or something. It's like I just know of it.
No, but I thought you were a volunteer at one point, or
so I mean, I've not volunteered at yours, but I volunteered at like other places, and what I have done is I'm more than happy to like lecture, and Zoom and all that kind of stuff at universities. I sit on the board of Roosevelt University for that exact reason. I helped them spin up their NSA certified cybersecurity program. So now I'm on the board of the College of Arts and Sciences, and so this is a passion of mine.
Excellent.
So in that sense, I volunteered, but I've not volunteered at Cyber Range.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Major props, dude.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cause.
Yeah. Oh, it is, and it's a great cause. It's a needed cause. It really is. It really is.
Some of my favorite conversations that I have just through my work week are I'll have a hold of somebody that may not know where to go to for as many resources, and I'll be able to share a resource, and then they're like, this has been phenomenal. Like they'll stop and the conversation start taking notes. Do you know how special I feel right there? I'm like, I was useful. Look at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so excited. And it's just stuff that I think, I thought everybody knew. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's like little practical things, that you don't think about. Like, so when I'm talking with CISOs, like one of the questions I get is like, oh my God, we're getting like 700 supply chain, requests like a week, of all these documents, like 200 questions each time. And my default answer is have one filled out, ready to go. And as soon as they send it to you, just send it right back. Send yours back and say, this is what we do. Is this sufficient? One, it shows you're on it, and two, 9 times out of 10, the company's like, yeah, that checks the boxes.
Perfect.
And so, now you've just saved yourself a whole headache and tying up a person, like all day or two to fill out, question after question after question. It's the same damn thing. So
trust me, I've been on the other side with that third-party risk management team, watching them trying to get answers for that stuff. Do it, Nick says.
Yeah.
They're so frustrated.
So like for my clients, like or new engagements, once we're under NDA, if they ask, we'll send it within 5 minutes. I mean, it's done.
And can we also talk about the amount of people that just need NDA basic? Let's do that. Let's do that more. Can we do that more?
Well, and you'd be amazed. Like I say, okay, well, before we dive in, we should probably be under NDA. And I'm even talking, like I said, I'm talking to CISOs half the time. They're like, what?
What?
Like, yeah. I'm like, okay, you may trust me that I'm not going to tweet this out, but it would be nice to have it in writing that I'm not,
Right?
And
I'm sure your legal team would also appreciate it.
It's low hanging fruit, right? But it's that kind of stuff that I think just helps everybody.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I got the note from Meg. We gotta shut it down. She walked back to the house now. Yeah. Oh, we're over time. I'm so sorry. Nick, do hang out for a few minutes though. I'd like to send you a gift. Next week, we are going to be having Dr. Joseph on, and I'm really excited about this. I was scrolling through and looking for some new podcasts to follow. Nick, write this one down. It's the Cyber Coffee Hour. Do you see why it got my attention?
There you go.
I was like, what? It's a whole thing. Okay, but they're cooler. It's way more formatted. They do editing. They're fancy. Okay. I got to talk to Dr. Joseph one-on-one, as I do with most of my guests before they agree to come on the show, right? We kind of feel each other out a little bit. They get to ask questions. I ask questions. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't do a live show. Maybe you should, right? And he's phenomenal. I mean, the amount of time that people put, and Nick, you know this, okay? Obviously, because you have that same level of production value and a lot of the content that you put out. Do you know how many hours people spend editing crap after? It's forever. So much. But anyway, we're gonna talk to Dr. Joseph about his journey into cybersecurity, his current passion projects, and his show, which is awesome. You guys need to go check it out. We'll have QR codes for next week too, and the event will be ready for you to hit the attend button or whatever it is on probably Monday, because it's my birthday, you guys. Deuces. I gotta go. I'm not posting it today. I love you though. Thank you again, Nick and Will, and we will see you all next week.
And in Nick's honor, live long and prosper, dude.
and I can't do it.
Oh no, I'll do it for you.
That's the best I can do. That's the best I can do.
I got you.
Yeah, I don't have the muscle for that. It's terrible.
All right, guys, this is the part where we smile and wave.